should burn well.
Here we go.
Ooh.
You're the one-shot wonder, man. All right. Well, thanks for joining me, Bernard.
Thanks for inviting me,
My pleasure, man.
Justin.
We're going to have a great little chat, I think.
I think so. The conditions are perfect.
Beautiful.
I feel good.
So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Ooh.
Who is Bernard?
Where do you want to start? Well, I'm an adopted kid.
Oh, cool.
I'm an only child,
Okay, yeah.
but one of 19.
19 siblings. 18 siblings?
18 half sibling, yeah, half sibling.
Yeah.
The story being, I always knew I was adopted. Was adopted when I was 2 months old.
Okay.
In Chicoutimi.
Was military or education first? Or both at the same time?
No, military first because I'm a dropout.
Yeah.
I left school in October of my last year because I was bored. I wanted to, my motivation to go to the army, I wanted to learn English.
Yeah.
I wanted to travel. And I wanted to have adventures, whatever that was.
Yep.
So quit school, left my books. The next day I was at the recruitment center. In January 71? 72. I went to Quebec, took the test. They offered me a number of possible jobs, including sonar operator and radar operator, because apparently I had a good ear. No, I wanted to go infantry. The recruiter, the sergeant said, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yes, that's what I want to do." He says, "You want to go infantry?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay." June, we have a course starting. And as I was walking out, I said, "Hey, we have another course starting May 8th. You want to go for there?" I said, "Yeah." So May 8th, I joined the forces actively, and I went for boot training. So 3 months, which is very general training. You learn everything, and you've got 2 weeks of combat training, which was my trade. That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Hey, nope, ATOMECY. Got you.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that. Then went to combat school in Valcartier. That's another 3 months. Going to shoot, throw grenades, Carl Gustav. I learned how to do pugil. You know what pugil is?
No.
It's bayonet combat training.
Oh, really?
It's the big stick with 2 foam canvas covered ends, maybe that big.
Oh.
And it's to punch somebody in the
Like
face.
pugilism.
And you learn, that's right. And you learn to do small move, large move, and then to use the butt and all of this. That was lots of fun.
Did they have you standing on like 2 things to balance or anything like that? No.
Not that I remember.
That's more of like those there TV show games versions.
Yeah. I mean, it's not infantry in the Canadian Army, regular infantry. It's not special forces.
No.
I mean, all I think infantry regiments in Canada, the Vandus, RCR, Royal Canadian Regiment, PPCLI, I think they're all well trained. They're all fine soldiers with similar training.
Yep.
And then after almost 5 years, I started to be tired of playing cowboy, digging holes, and it's kind of hard. The worst is actually sleeping and working in the fall, late fall, when it's wet and it snowed and melted, and it's mud and your feet are cold and in the mud, that was the worst.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, I had enough, and I wanted to pursue education, so I did. I met this woman in Germany who believed I could study and supported me morally, financially, intellectually, um, and I quit. And 3 days later, I started University of Moncton.
Oh, wow. Just as a mature student, they just...
That's right.
Cool.
Yeah.
And what did you study?
If then the way it worked, if you were 3 years on the job market steady, then you can apply. And I had to maintain a 2.5 average. Really
GPA?
yeah.
And what was it you signed up for originally to study?
Biology.
Biology. That's one of my favorite subjects.
Me too. Biology was really easy. I never really studied biology. It just makes sense.
Yep.
Need to memorize some stuff, but once you understand the nomenclature and mechanics, it's so I did that, and then in the second semester I took an intro to psychology. Really liked it. That combined with difficulty in calculus, and if I want to go in medicine, I needed to have at least 4 GPA. I wasn't going to have that, and so I thought, I'll try that. Didn't know what I was doing. I was, 23.
Well, you know what? I'll say this.
Yeah.
Most people I've met that studied this in the field of psychology, usually it's because they're trying to figure themselves out. And then they try to make a career out of it.
Frankly, I think it's a myth.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, because I know lots of psychologists who are not interested in themselves, and some are well balanced, some are less balanced, but I don't see that. But I've seen a bunch of students who were like that.
Yeah.
But usually they drop out in third year. There's a high level of mortality in psychology in the bachelor. Hey, let's see. Oh, she saw the cat.
Yeah.
No.
What's her name?
Mocha.
Mocha.
Hey.
Hey. Hey.
She won't be aggressive, but she'll be curious. She's not aggressive.
Well, she'll get hurt if she messes. That's a wild cat.
Oh yeah, she deserves it. She won't fight the cat, but she's curious. So what was I saying?
So you decided to study psychology.
There are some that you can see they're not well balanced, and third year the workload is large enough. The stress is also to look at yourself to a certain degree. Already it's starting. It's part of some courses where you learn to do therapy. It's like student in medicine. They start to diagnose themselves about this and about that. Oh, it looks like maybe I developed this.
It's almost like Googling your symptoms.
It's called the medical student neurosis.
Is that what it is?
It is,
medical
absolutely. And psychology students do that too. I have borderline personality trait when I think about it. Not me.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a little bit of a psychopath. or histrionic or something like this. You start to look at this, but it's kind of being like a goalie in hockey. I'm really interested in the psychology of goalies because they have to be able to take responsibility to the right degree, not feel guilty, know that no one could have stopped it. Doesn't matter what your teammate think.
Or the fans. Or the fans.
You did your job and you can live with that. And when you muff up, you have to be able to get over that, to rationalize it, to use it as a lesson or find a way to make sense of it that it helps to continue. Not everybody can be a goalie because you can be the hero, but you can be really...
you can be either the hero or the zero.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's unfair
that's
for that in that... Well, I have too much.
So as a psychology student, it's a little bit of the same thing. You have to learn to find out, that's not one of my strengths.
Yeah.
But then I have this or I have that. Also, you can't really work with people when you're too fucked up.
No, man. You think so?
No,
Yeah.
no, nobody is perfect. I know of no psychologist. No, I know of no individual who's perfect. You know, but you have to be balanced enough that you're not leading people astray, influencing them with your values, and that's where the training comes from. That you learn to pull your value, not mine.
Yeah.
You know, I think having a dog is a really good thing. You know, but that's my value.
Yeah.
If you want to have an impeccable house, don't have a dog. You know, maybe it's more important for you to have nice, shiny floors than having fur and whatever. So, you know, it's therapeutic having a dog, but it's not for everyone. Your values dictates that.
It's funny you say that because I was never a big fan of the dogs getting up on furniture and making mess in the fur. And then I got a pug. And the pug just... You can fight it. You can fight the fur all you want. There comes a point where you eventually just have to submit. You don't
Resistance is futile.
You don't wear black clothes anymore, and you just give into the fact. You carry those there rollers with you, and you just give into the fact that it's a given that there's going to be pug hair over everything in your life. Your storyline. So. Military, psychology. You graduated from psychology.
Yeah,
what was it, like a major, and like what was your degree?
Well, the bachelor was spécialisation, so that's specialization. So that's mostly psychology. There's very little other courses. There's the basic in French and math, but beside this, very quickly following more and more. It's really on the professional track.
And then you would major in...
And then I did the master.
Master's?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then you needed the master and 4 years of supervised experience. So 4 years that you worked under already a licensed psychologist. Now, I think since 2017, in New Brunswick, the doctoral degree, either a PhD or a doctoral degree in psychology, is a must to have the license. Those like me who had a master's degree because we're old, we've been grandfathered, and of course I'm still licensed and practicing and working on retiring. That's.
So did you have like while you were doing your master's, were you allowed to? You were doing. That's when you did the 4 years of work term.
That's right. I used to work with Dr. Eugène Leblanc. I was a resident, so that's the title.
Yeah.
When sometimes it's not always clear in psychology, anyway. An internship.
Really, things aren't always clear in psychology.
Well, okay, touché. So I'm trying to make it clear.
Yes, there you go.
So an intern is when you're still a student, right?
Yeah.
And nowadays it's a year. It's $1,600. So,
okay.
Of working under the supervision of a licensed, experienced psychologist. So that's internship. Then you get your degree. Now it's a doctoral degree. It's either PhD or DPS at the University of Moncton. It's DPS, which is specifically tailored to do clinical practice. PhD, you can of course do clinical practice of all kinds, but also you're more prepared to teach.
Right.
Okay? Because it's more research oriented.
Okay, so after you graduated, what was your first job?
I worked in a penitentiary.
Penitentiary?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. On which side of the cage?
I said work.
Yeah.
So I was working on my thesis, and one of my friends who was working for Correctional Service Canada, Denis Lapalme, now Dr. Lapalme, came to see me as I was working as a administrative assistant for the dean while I was working on my thesis, part-time. And he came to see me. He said, we have a position at Dorchester. There's 2 positions, $30,000 a year. contract, substance abuse, stress management, anger management. $30,000 a year, which was quite a bit of money then, especially it was contract.
Way
Right?
back in the 30s.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
So I said, no, I got to finish that thesis, and I want to work. And he says, no, I understand, I respect that. So he respected that for 2 weeks
until he didn't.
And then he came back and he said, have you thought about it? I said, yeah, but he said, have you considered though that could be good practice just to do the interview, so you know what it's like to do a job interview? Yeah, sucker.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I wanted to have a job, so it's pertinent. So I went. They offered me the job. So that's how I started. So I did contract for a few years. Then there was a competition with the government with CSC. Applied, and it was
Correctional Services Canada, CSC. Yeah.
Correctional Service Canada, and I won that position. And I started to work full time as a correctional psychologist. Eventually, my training was in clinical psychology, but took also lots of classes and workshops on forensic psychology, and it eventually became specialized also in forensic psychology. So I have a dual specialization in clinical and forensic psychology.
So
that's what
clinical and forensic. What's the just very briefly, what's the big difference between the two?
Well, clinical is about working with people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot about helping people with issues, doing diagnosis, assessment, treatment plans. That's the clinical part. The forensic part does not necessarily need that, but usually it's present because that's the track for most, I think. Oh no, there's training now. It's mostly forensic psychology. So that's focused more on risk assessment, risk of physical violence, risk of sexual violence, risk of mass shooting or events at school or at work. So there's tools to help to predict these things. So that's forensic psychology. But forensic is really about working within the legal system.
Yeah, because whenever I hear forensic, probably like most people too.
Yeah, you think about bodies.
CSI.
Yeah.
That show. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's true because they work within the criminal justice system.
As investigators.
As investigator, that's right. And we work after the fact most of the time. When we're asked to do a risk assessment, it's because somebody did something and we want to know for the future. Somebody wants to know for the future.
So you would have to kind of present that maybe in a court or something like that?
It could be in a court. It could be for parole board as correctional psychologist. National Parole Board in Canada is a complete different entity as CSC. Under the Solicitor General, you have RCMP, CSIS, CSC, and National Parole Board. So they're an independent entity. So CSC takes care of the incarceration, managing the inmates, and so forth. And within that, there are people that have different functions. For instance, parole officer, they will interview the offender, find out what they need to become, more adjusted to society, better citizen, or to get a parole. What is it that you need to do? You've got grade 9 and you've got a problem with substance abuse and you've got a short fuse. So what can we do for you? We've got programs for you. That's what it was. That's how I started doing substance abuse, right? With everything.
Question. How long?
Everything.
Question. How long did you spend in the correctional industry?
29 years.
Oh, you spent that much time there? 3 decades. Wow.
Yeah. Well, I worked as a line psychologist, what they call the PS3. That was the title, the designation. Did that for a number of years. Then went PS4, which is supervisory of other psychologists. Then PS5, which regional. And then that was out of prison completely. That was in Moncton. And that involved at first lots of travels, because there were 5 of us, 6 actually. There was a a regional psychologist in Ottawa, and then there was one for the Ontario region, then one for each region.
So like Atlantic or Maritimes?
Maritimes was one. The 4 provinces were under my whatever, and then Ontario, then the prairies, and BC.
Cool.
So,
and then after you retired from there, you decided I'm not finished work. I'm not finished working. I want to continue, and you started your own business.
Well, I'd always been doing practice in the evenings and on the weekends.
Okay.
Small practice, but still was involved, even as well, that's part of the reason why I was doing this, because I'm trained as a clinical psychologist. So those are perishable skills. So I didn't want to be just, head deep in Excel forms and whatever management thing, I want to remain a clinical psychologist. So that's part of why I was doing the evening and the Saturday morning. So, and when I finished for CSE, I retired July 27, 2013 at 4 o'clock. I've got a picture of me at 4 o'clock behind me, with my sad face. I'm leaving my...
I feel like it was really a moment to remember for you.
It was, absolutely. So, and then for 2 years, I'd worked at the University of Moncton as a coordinator for their internship programs.
Okay.
Internship is stages, various professional stages, where a student go work for 3 months with... I think on the second year maybe, and 3 months with a licensed psychologist to observe, and to learn this way. And then more and more as the stage becomes longer and more in depth, they get to be more hands-on. And the internship at the end is a hands-off supervision. Instead of hands-on, it's hands-off. You watch the person, you supervise so they don't make boo-boo. You revise everything they write. Every test they give, every opinion, that's what an internship is. The residency is similar, but it's more at arm's length.
Okay.
Because they're quite experienced by then. They've done 2,000 hours of direct training, and plus the studies, right?
Right.
So during the residency, they're quite apt, and they function essentially like an autonomous psychologist, except that I and anybody else who does that, you review everything that they write, every opinion, every email.
Sorry, what do you mean by autonomous psychologist?
There's nobody else that I respond to, no one except my college. I don't have a boss. I'm my boss. So that's autonomous. You're an autonomous practitioner.
Certain amount of freedom.
And you're an autonomous worker, right? You're not part of an organization.
Right. Okay.
Now, my organization, I guess, is my clinic, but that's...
Tell us about that. How did you get started with your clinic? And
well, when I left that's actually an interesting story from somebody who's complete atheist, right? Because in 2014, with my girlfriend, we went to France, to Paris, to spend Christmas.
Nice.
In Paris. And what do you do if you spend Christmas in Paris? You go to Notre Dame, right?
Cathedral.
For the midnight mass.
Yeah.
Catholic boy. Still atheist, but Catholic boy, right? And try to picture this. We got there at 9 p.m. and we're watching on big screen, and we had a nice seat. We were quite a bit in front. Big screen, choir is playing. On my mini iPad, I'm reading a James Patterson novel with people, stabbing each other, shooting each other, and around me, no. And then I had what I call an epiphany.
Oh.
As I was reading, I was sort of thinking about going back to work and all of that. And the epiphany was, why am I working for anybody else? I don't want to work for anybody else. I mean, the job at the University of Moncton was fantastic. Working with bright young students. My supervisor was a very pleasant and hands-off type of person. And it was fun. It was stimulating, and I felt I was contributing. So I loved it. But yeah, no, I'd rather do my own thing. That's what I did then. I came back, I wrote my letter of resignation, I helped train my successor, and since then I've been in private practice, full time.
What were the things that you took into consideration when you were making the decision of moving from employed to self-employed? Employed by a third party to self-employed, that autonomous move.
Mm-hmm. Well, the big challenge when you do this is that you're on your own. In CSC, I had 4 other psychologists within, on the same floor within a few doors. So you can consult, you can use a colleague as a sounding board, a more experienced one as a mentor or a guide. When you're in private practice, there's none of that. That's what autonomous means.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to avoid this, you surround yourself with colleagues who are in a similar situation. And that's what we have at my clinic. There's Resilience, who's another independent practice. There's Kathy and there's Liz. They're all independent, but we also consult as needed, maintaining confidentiality. I mean, we're discussing IDs, not people.
So kind of like a peer-to-peer
Support, yeah. Also for ethical issues, sometimes you're not too sure, is this
crossing the line, or where's the line? It's nice to get other people's feedback.
To give us an example, a native client was grateful for our work together and offered me some salmon.
Nice.
Smoked salmon. Nice. Can accept.
Ethically?
Ethically.
Or legally? Or both?
Ethically. Legally, I could. I'm not breaking the law. He got the salmon legally. So, but ethically, no, because he's my client.
Right.
I have an influence on him.
Mm-hmm.
I can write reports that will be good for him or bad for him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be in that position.
You don't need any conflicts of interest.
That's right.
Yeah.
But also, that's in his culture.
Yep. So
to give me food. So how do I solve this?
I mean, I've dealt with this from a human resources consulting perspective with clients that receive gift cards and money from their clients that they're not, and it's right in the policy manual. They can't accept it, right? But I've had to advise them just to say, you know what, I really appreciate the gesture and the kindness. However, I'm bound by a certain set of professional rules and guidelines that I just can't accept it, unfortunately. I tell you what, give it to someone else on my behalf.
What if it offends them that refusing a gift is an insult, regardless of your reason? So here's what I thought was acceptable.
Okay.
Legally, ethically. I can't accept your food. However, I can break bread with you. Bring it. We'll eat some while we talk.
Yeah.
And that's what we did.
So it's okay as long as they eat it with you.
Yeah, so it's not that we eat it together. It's the fact that I'm not taking advantage of him. He's willing to share his food with me.
Yep.
Who am I to refuse this if he wants this?
Right.
Right? Makes sense to me.
On that note, let's take a quick break. Mm-hmm. The fire looks like it's ready for some food. And when we come back, we'll jump right into your business and the kind of stuff that you do, and then we'll talk about some other topics as well. Like, let's just get all over the place. Time traveling.
You want to talk about time traveling? Okay, let's go. Let's do it.
All right.
I'll shake it a little bit.
let's go into... First, before we do, would you like a cigar?
Might as well.
All right, I'll grab a cigar.
Might as well.
Sorry, Mocha, I don't have a cigar for you.
Oops, thank you. I never smoked
No?
cigarettes. I smoked cigar for a period of time, quite a bit, and I enjoyed going to countries where they had stuff, and I would try it.
Like Cuba and stuff like that?
Yeah. But I don't really enjoy it.
Just lost my lighter.
Well, we've got a big fire there. Maybe we can use it as
Yeah.
our light.
Do you have your... I don't want to burn my face off if I can avoid it.
My
Funny,
flashlight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, pup. Hey, girl. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, I just put it right here in front of me for a sec. Oh, there it is. I got it. Yeah. You're a good girl. Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. Buries her head right into you, eh? Yeah. Yeah.
She's very affectionate. She's a crazy dog.
She's like, what are you doing? You crazy old man.
Let's see.
Smoking.
Yeah. We were saying...
Yeah, so as I want to move into some of the things that we discussed before.
Sure.
Time travel.
I know you're intrigued by the time travel.
Yeah, let's go.
That's just a hook. It's a metaphor.
Yeah, okay.
And I find that... Here's why. That's my theory of how we as humans function. I think the main purpose of the brain is to predict.
Okay.
Predict what will happen.
Yeah.
And we do that all the time. And because of this, we are where we are today. Everything around us, it came from our mind. But that same ability is what makes us crazy. Because that's what creates anxiety. Anxiety is not in the present. If you're anxious in this moment, it's not because of these wonderful feelings and experience. It's because you anticipate something or you're thinking about something back. In the moment, when it's pure, there's no anxiety. Here's a story I tell about dogs and what they can do so much better than us. You take your girlfriend or a friend, okay, and her, or your dog rather, and you put them in the trunk of your car for a couple hours.
Okay.
Okay, and you leave them there. A couple hours later, you open the trunk, see who's happy to see you.
Leave the dog for sure.
So the question is, my friend, does the dog love you more than your wife or your friend?
Probably. Unconditional. No. It's unconditional love.
But that's not why he is happy to see you. Why is she not happy to see you? Why is she fucking pissed off at you? Because she's thinking, why did you do that? Yeah. So she goes to the past.
The dog already forgot.
The dog, he doesn't think about the past, doesn't have this ability. It doesn't process time as we do. It lives totally in the moment.
Yeah.
That's why they're more observant.
Do they though? Because
they have a sense of time.
Yeah.
But they live in the moment.
Because I was going to say, because my pug...
They have a sense of time.
I could never leave it home without it freaking out and...
Yeah.
What do you call that? Separation anxiety. My pug had separation anxiety.
Well, that would not necessarily be related to time at all. It'd just be related to absence of use.
Yeah, because it kicks in 1 second after I'm gone.
Yeah, but dogs, I see that in her. She's sleeping, right? Until, let's say, in the afternoon, she'll take a nap. And about 15 minutes before Anne comes home, she pops up. And she goes see. Now, granted, there's other times where she does that too. But around that time, I've noted that, she waits for Anne. But I kind of often said also, Anne is coming. And so I think there's a certain sense of time. But the point is that they stay in the moment a lot. Much better than we do. we're not able to do this. It's a simple concept. It's not an easy one to live.
Is it advantageous?
Which part?
Living like a dog.
It has its advantage because that's how you manage anxiety, because you can't not be anxiety by saying, okay, I don't want to be anxious.
What are
I don't want to be anxious. That doesn't work.
Speaking of anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
what are some easy ways to get over it?
That's one of the ways. It's called mindfulness. That's the thing. That's the hook about the time traveling. That's what makes us crazy. That's what makes us anxious. And there's time where we shouldn't be mindful. But when you're washing dishes and you're anxious, maybe you can think more about what you're doing and less about where your mind is going. That's why music is good, for instance, because when you learn to play a song, you practice. I play a little bit of guitar. When you practice, especially when I practice, I think about nothing else really. I think about my fingers and then this and that, and I sound things out in my head. I'm there. I don't think about I don't know, whatever else going on in my life.
So what are some ways to harness anxiety for the better?
To use anxiety?
Yeah.
Well, anxiety. It's the goal is not. That's a very good question, Messi. The goal is not to get rid of the anxiety, because anxiety is what we inherited from our ancestor. The time where we lived in caverns, there were threats around us. If there are noises in the bushes, and you think, oh look, I think there's a squirrel there. You go there, there's a fucking tiger. You want rubber juice.
Oh, no. Unless you already did, yeah. You're done.
Yeah. And your ancestor won't be very calm, very easygoing. They'll be the type that hears some noises there, and they'll go, fuck, could be a tiger.
So basically what you're saying, if I'm right, if I understand correctly.
Okay. And because of that, they take precautions.
Yeah.
And they survive. They reproduce. And the result of this, we get anxiety.
Yeah. So it's a natural defense mechanism.
It's a coping mechanism. Yeah, it's a survival mechanism.
Yeah.
The person I was telling you about that was pretty good with words. She was asking me, what are that? The defense mechanism. I said defense mechanism, like rationalization and projection. Talked about a number of, she wasn't in that field at all. I was young in the profession. And she said, why aren't they called survival mechanism? Yeah, that's what they are. They allow us to survive. If you back up from your driveway and you run over your kid and you kill her or kill him, how are you going to survive that mentally?
Yeah.
If you don't kill yourself, how are you going to survive and become whole again? You'll never forget and maybe even forgive yourself.
I guess the best way would be...
But you got to find a way.
The best way would probably be to have another kid.
Well, there's probably many ways.
Yeah.
But the point is that you got to find a way that's meaningful to you. If you live constantly in the past, but the terrible error you made, or the terrible error that he or she made, maybe it was totally unavoidable. Maybe you were alert, you were careful, but who knows?
Yeah.
But not to go crazy, you got to find something. I'm going to be an advocate for the beep beep on the cars. I'm going to go around the world and make sure that nobody else does that.
So they assume that just because
I'm an advocate, it's just an example.
I know,
right?
but I want to play on that. I want to ride that train.
Wait.
So because you made the mistake, it's safe to assume others will. So run around and advocate.
Yeah. Find a meaning of some sort. It's just an example.
Yeah. No. I'm diving into it.
But it's finding a way not to go crazy.
Mm.
Maybe having another kid.
Yeah,
No, you're not wrong.
one way.
Maybe falling in love. Maybe starting painting.
Because I think of like women who've had miscarriages. They don't forget that.
Mm-hmm.
That sticks with them. Even when they have other kids afterwards, they like. I've seen plaques on walls of like, you know.
Well, it's a meaningful moment. It's your
Yeah.
first. We don't know as guys really what it does,
Oof.
to have something growing inside of you.
I've had a girlfriend that I got pregnant who had a miscarriage.
Ah.
So I know what it feels like from the guy's perspective, and I can somewhat empathize with her, what she was going through at the time. But I could never really truly feel what she felt. No, I could never get to that level.
Yeah.
No. And we just tried again. Didn't work the second time, but
Uh-huh.
yeah, you know it. Yay? You know it. Yeah?
I use her as a therapy dog in my office.
So yeah, talk about that. What is a therapy dog, and how do you, as a psychologist, use a therapy dog in your practice?
Well, she's very obedient, so I have her trained that she doesn't interact with my clients, and I tell my client also, please ignore her. And she's sitting on a cushion by my chair, and usually she sleep or she chew on something easily for a couple hours in a row. And towards the end, often I tell her, go visit. Then she goes. And it's a good transition from having your brain, drilled by a shrink. A stretch, I would say, not a shrink. I'll explain.
Yeah.
But, get delving into sometime trauma, that sort of thing. So it helps to do a transition between talking about these heavy things and doing that, just being in the moment, right? And then moving on with your life, and maybe carrying something useful, hopefully. So she helps to break the mood in that way, to lighten the mood. Most people react very well to the dog, so that's kind of therapeutic in itself. It helps to change the mood state, so that can be useful. Also, when somebody gets really emotional in my office, loud, or you know, she reacts and she wants to go to the person, and I let her do that. Sometime I don't want to interrupt either, but she'll stay there, she'll look, and if I say okay, go, she'll go. But typically I will do that towards the end, that whatever is going on, I don't think it's very appropriate to interrupt,
Right.
because I'm not comfortable maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So we write this together, and sometimes I use her in that way to break state, to change the mood a little bit when necessary. So she's therapeutic in that. She's also kind of a facility dog, because a facility dog is like the traditional Dalmatian with firefighters.
All right, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Um,
And those German shepherds with the cops and
yeah, it's everybody's dog.
service dogs.
No,
No?
a facility dog, a service dog has tasks.
Okay.
I'll tell you. But a facility dog is like a Dalmatian in a fire hall. It's everybody's dog.
Yeah.
He reacts to everyone. He obeys to everyone. He's not aggressive with strangers or anyone. That's a facility
And he's
dog.
not part of any of the critical operations.
No.
Yeah.
It's there to be a facility dog. Maybe it goes on some calls, I don't know, but not as a service dog.
Right.
A service dog has tasks. For instance, seeing guide
The guide dogs there for the blind.
guide dog for
Yeah.
the blind. Their task is to guide. There's dogs like her can help with mobility, helps you to pick up things on the ground, help you get up, can also wake you up from nightmares. If you trash and moan, the dog will interrupt you, lick your face, if necessary, paw you in some cases, and it's called deep pressure therapy. The dog will actually lay on you, so it's like a heavy blanket,
Yep.
and that can be reassuring. Oops, sorry, can be reassuring to for anxiety
Yeah.
because it helps to ground the person in the moment. You were asking about the ways, so mindfulness is the ability to stay in the moment. There are exercise also like meditation that helps to practice staying in the moment. But it's also a lot about the senses. That's one of the way you stay in the moment. So
Interesting.
so kinesthetically, the dog, when it lays on you, it focuses you on that and not wherever your mind was. And sometimes you melt, when the dog lick your face. Not saying they necessarily do that, but it's just an example. It also helps to break state and it alleviate. It doesn't cure, but
Just kind of helps.
it helps. I think the word therapeutic is maybe a strong word, but it's a therapeutic assistance for sure. It's like you take a Valium, or Ativan, whatever. It's a therapeutic assistance. It helps to change. That's what therapy means. It means a change towards the better. So a pill helps you to function better, or a dog helps you for various reasons, or meditation helps you, or changing your way of thinking, like in cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and others. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for that explanation. I had rough ideas of what service dogs, and I've even seen like in old war movies, there's some roles that dogs have played in wars, even, and horses and as well, and stuff like that. Next thing I wanted to ask you about was what was it? Oh, conspiracy theories. I struggle with the fact that these days a conspiracy theory is an easy way, or a cheap and easy way, to dismiss someone's opinions, or
It's a toxic label.
yeah, it's become derogatory. I don't understand why. I understand why, because JFK, that's where it all became a thing, right? That term. But man, like, it seems so dismissive to call someone that without any like argument or any like reason, just because they had an opinion or they hypothesize, which is what it is, of what the events, how the events occurred, or what caused certain events to happen. And it's like, okay, why aren't they allowed to think about that? Why does that get to get shut down? That's what I don't understand. Like, where's the freedom?
I think there's freedom of expression, but there's no freedom of consequences because you're dealing with humans. So it's a very hard word for me to say tribalism.
Tribalism?
Tribalism.
Yeah.
That I think is the issue, because if it's not about French, English, Catholic, Protestant, Muslim, Christian, black, white, homo, hetero, bi, whatever, it will be something else. How come you have a beard? How come you have a mustache? Have you ever seen the episode of Star Trek where there's a war between people that are half white, half black? Mocha, no. Tais-toi.
That must have been during Voyager.
No. Original.
Really?
Original.
Okay.
So the episode is very simple. There's a war on some planet by a species that are half white, half black. Like this.
Oh, like, okay. Right.
Yeah. And at some point they try to do diplomacy. They have them in the same room. and I think it's Mr. Spock that says, that's not logical. You're both half white, half black, because there was racism overtones. So Spock said that's not logical.
Okay.
They said, "What do you mean? He's black on the left side. I'm white on the left side." I thought it was genius.
It is.
It was genius.
Yeah.
We're not half, but it's the same logic.
Right.
You're white. I'm black.
But where's the conspiracy theory in that?
I don't know.
So I don't understand why conspiracy theory has become derogatory. That's my
No, the link is the tribalism thing.
tribalism. Yeah.
That's the link. The conspiracy theory is just that. I don't like your theory. That's all. Conspiracy. That's a word. That's a toxic label that's circulating now. But never mind what the fact is that it's only conspiracy because I don't like yours because I have a conspiracy theory too. Right? And you're wrong. I'm right.
See that I don't like.
It's always that.
That I struggle with. Conspiracy theories aren't right or wrong yet. That's why they're a theory.
I totally agree with you. We should be able to discuss. Did you know I'm an alien? I think I'm an alien.
Oh.
Yeah. I've always thought that. And like we said, Joe Rogan, if we could have this curiosity, just genuine, deep curiosity, really, you think you're an alien? Well, tell me why, what makes you say that, and genuinely be interested. It'd be fantastic. I think we'd have, without getting all dysregulated because you think that, and why can't you see the right way?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's when
we do that with like everything.
It's when people take a conspiracy theory and then turn it into a firm belief. That's where that's the fallacy.
Absolutely.
Or at least express it that way.
Well, no, when they express it as a fact,
Yeah.
then it's a problem. I'll tell you what. The big JFK.
Yeah.
You want to go there?
Sure.
Okay. So, JFK the movie. You saw that?
Kevin Costner?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's been a long time, but yeah.
You know the theory, back and left. Back and left.
The shots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember, do you know
the head
back
moving?
and left? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's shot in the back.
Yeah.
But yet his head goes back.
Yeah.
And forth. Doesn't make sense. Also, the bullet hit Governor Wallace, 3 times, hit Kennedy first and then hit Wallace, went through his whatever, hit the wrist and then ended up. It's impossible, when you have this angle, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
That's the theory.
Yeah.
First of all, they were not sitting in the same line. When you really look at the drawing, they were not sitting in the same line. So the bullet didn't ricochet a little bit, but not zigzag like they say in the movie. The back and forth is debatable. And I've heard experts saying you shoot somebody in the front and they'll have strange motion. Because it's a nervous reaction, and not nervous like anxiety, but the nerves fire, and you could have this when you're shot in the face or in the back, whatever. So I don't want to debate this. Here's my only insight about that. Okay, I was a pretty good shot. We shot without scope, 600 yards, okay, prone. And able to hit not a human silhouette, but a fairly big silhouette, good, and sometimes a grouping that would be lethal at that distance, 600 meters. What was the distance that Lee Harvey Oswald was from Kennedy when he hit him the first time?
On the grassy knoll?
He hit him 3 times, right? I'm sorry. He shot 3 times.
Okay.
The first shot missed completely.
Yeah.
The second shot hit him in the back, out the throat. So he did this. And that's the Zapruder film. When he goes to the sign, that's when you see him do this. And then the fatal shot in the back of the head. I think it's 150 feet. I shot at 600 meter.
Yeah.
150. You shot, you know. 100. No, Mocha. It's okay. So it's okay. 150 shot. 150 feet. It's an easy shot. I was in that window. I was physically in that window, in Dallas, in the Texas Book Depository, 6th floor. I was exactly in the window. It's an easy shot because
So what do you mean?
there's a small incline and it's 150 feet with a scope. Even 150 yards, it's an easy shot with a scope.
If you're shooting, well, we'll say this. There's a caveat. There's a caveat we got to take into account here.
Okay.
One, you're shooting targets that are not humans, and he's got all the pressure in the world because he's aiming at a president of the United fucking States of America.
I don't think it mattered because he was crazy enough that he was very focused. I don't think it's a
No?
I don't think it holds water. It's possible.
Yeah.
It's a valid argument, but I think you can be in any mental state and do anything. You know, when it's a matter of trance, people fall into a trance and do things. That's not like a formal trance, but it's daytime type of trance where you're focused on something. I think that's quite possible. It was an easy shot. That's what I'm saying. And I'm not an elite shot. I was a good shot, but I think I could have easily done that shot. And I've seen things where they did the reconstitution that was fairly easy shot with that sort of rifle.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes sense too, because I think I could have done that having the nerve, if I would have had the nerves. But there are things that are difficult to explain in terms of timing and everything. And
Ballistics.
yeah, no sense to dwell in this. Simply that's one explanation, and the other one is the
So that's your
man on the knoll, and I was there too. I've got picture of me right there.
The grassy knoll?
La Clôture, the grassy knoll.
Yeah.
And there was a table there of conspiracy theorists, right?
Right.
With books and all of that, and I had fun discussing with them.
Basically what you're saying is that's your conspiracy theory. And if
Yeah.
I say you're wrong,
Yeah,
that doesn't mean that you're an asshole.
yeah.
That's the point here.
Yeah, because there's a certain logic in what I'm saying. Yeah, so whatever you're right. That's exactly what I was saying. This is my theory. Let's say it's my theory.
Yeah.
It was just a crazy dude who was so focused on and believed so hard that Kennedy was bad for the country. I'm going to do that, because he's bad for our country. I'm doing something good for our country. If you believe that enough, for whatever reason, and he was, contrary to popular belief, he wasn't a bad shot. He wasn't an elite sniper. He wasn't a sniper, but he was a sharpshooter.
Yeah, who trained him?
The Marines. He was in the Army.
Yeah.
He was Marine, yeah. Yeah. So there's that, right? Granted. So, and he went in Russia for a while, and he married a Russian chick, and there's all kind of things that.
Oh, I've heard everything like Mossad trained them, and like there's all kinds of stuff going on.
I don't know how strong Mossad was in 60-some. They're very strong and deadly. I agree. Mossad doing training. I don't know. See, that's another theory. I don't know.
Yeah.
What's your evidence?
I don't have any evidence.
My only evidence is I was in the window.
To me, that's barely better than not being there, because you weren't there.
Yeah, because there's so many
Yeah.
biases, of course.
I think that the video that's available is even more valuable than that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, obviously this happened before I was even born. the JFK assassination and his brother's assassination.
Yeah.
That's another one he got shot in the back
Yeah.
and the front.
I don't know.
Was it the
Okay,
front and the
possibly.
back?
Yeah, I don't know.
There's a
very
guy
much.
standing.
I know more JFK than RFK.
The guy standing behind him shot him in the back, and the guy who was in front of him, I think, shot and missed. That's what it was. I think he shot and missed.
Okay, so the
guy got the
back
blame.
it was Sharon, and in the front was who?
One of his bodyguards or something.
Okay. I think, yeah, I heard about that maybe there was a bodyguard. Anyway.
I'm just kind of curious to see what happens to Robert Kennedy Jr. because that guy's running for president.
That's interesting.
I don't think the Democrats are going to let him become the candidate.
Yeah, you don't think so?
Absolutely not.
He's too much of a
threat
to the deep state and to the establishment. The establishment,
maybe a little bit, but I think it's no longer the Democratic Party is no longer the party of the Kennedys. It's the party of the Clintons and the Obamas.
Yeah,
and that's just two different. I think they're two competitive cliques, and I don't think they're going to let him in. I wouldn't be surprised if he runs independent. And to be frank with you, I'd like to see more independence, and I'd like to see them get more stage time.
Me too. I think that's one of the weaknesses of the American political system. Their two-party thing is crazy.
Well, they don't even really have a two-party. I don't even understand why we say that.
Well,
they have a Libertarian Party. They have a Green Party.
True, but it's...
They don't get on the stage.
That's right.
Just like in Canada, independents don't get on the stage.
Yeah.
They don't get invited to debates.
No. Well, because they're not numerous enough, isn't that? Is it because of that?
It's because they don't have a party leader.
So why don't they have a party leader?
Because they're not a party, they're independents.
Okay, that makes sense. They're independent. So,
like personally,
how do you know how many there are?
When it comes the same way you know how many MP candidates there are from political parties. When an election is called, how many of them put their name forward? So, let's switch gears.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on AI. A, just in general, right? And B, how from a psychological perspective.
Ooh.
Like,
well, I think it's a tool, and like any tool can be used for good or for evil. That's it. You know, it may rule humanity, or it can help us conquer illnesses and war and bring peace, or will annihilate us and take control of humanity and resistance is futile.
Kind of like Terminator?
Yeah. That's a scenario. So that's possible. Is it likely? But I don't know. I don't have that expertise. There's people that are
neither do I.
Futurists, and that are.
I wouldn't even say they have the expertise. But what I would say is the AI being merged with machine would be more but AI on its own, just as a software, I see it. I mean, I see it. A lot of people using it is very much being underutilized. I see people doing like really stupid things with it, like they do with everything else. It's like, why would you take such a powerful thing and spend your time getting it to tell you stupid jokes or something like that? You know what I mean? Or like, I can just imagine what people out there are typing into this machine. And I have a theory that every time you engage with this, you're giving it a part of you.
Mm-hmm.
You're giving it a part of your uniqueness, your identity in a sense, and it's absorbing that. And I don't know anything else that we've invented that does that.
I think they used to say that about photographs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Photographs.
It's an interesting metaphor. Yeah.
The natives wouldn't back in the day, they wouldn't take a photo because they thought it stole their soul or something, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I feel the same way about AI.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's stealing our soul, quote unquote.
So it wasn't then, is it it wasn't true then that photographs stole their soul, our soul,
Yeah.
because now nobody would have soul. We have photographs, thousands,
Yeah.
trillions of human.
But a photograph's not the same as a software that is self-replicating.
But the thinking might be the same. Photographs
Yeah.
do that. Now you're
The
saying
fear
it's
is-
AI.
The fear is the same.
But the fear?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the concern, the fear is the same. Yeah. But you're saying that AI is so powerful, it's far from a photograph.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
there's the likelihood of being harmful and stealing your soul in whatever that means is greater than with a mere photograph. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. That's the way I'm looking at it. Even motion pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just. I got to remember, AI is just a little baby at this point.
So you believe in soul, or is it just a metaphor?
It's more
Still
of more of just a term that's easy to use to get the idea across that
to
people,
represent
Yeah.
that part of you, that's your identity, that makes
uniqueness
you,
and identity. Yeah.
not your DNA per se, but
No.
certainly your DNA in terms of personality, perception, knowledge, and all that.
All those psychological and biological, physiological
Yeah, exactly. That makes it.
factors that come together to make me
Yeah.
the unique person that I am.
It's a little bit like Lego blocks.
You know,
You've got just 4 basic Lego blocks, and by using those, repeating them over and over, you can make millions of models of things.
Yep.
And DNA is exactly the same thing.
yeah, look at binary code. It's just ones and zeros.
Yeah,
Look what you can do with that. That's just 2 options.
Yeah, and then there's 4 there. Yeah.
Yeah.
My God. And this is mind-boggling, thinking about,
Technology and where
well,
it's
no,
going.
energy, because apparently there's no matter. I'm pretty sure this is, but in reality, it's just energy arranged a different way. This is fantastic. That's.
You're kind of
Can we do this on acid again?
I don't know, but I will say this.
Yeah.
You mentioned energy, and it kind of makes me want to move into the next topic, which is electricity.
What is it?
I have a theory that, and this is just a theory, folks, that...
I think we've talked about lots of theories.
Yeah, I'm not a crazy conspiracy theorist.
So what he means is it's another theory.
Yeah, just
go
another one on the list.
Yeah.
But so basically what I'm thinking that electricity is, in my mind and my experience, and I'm not saying I'm right or wrong, is think about this. If I take the electricity away from you as a being, you become a pile of skin and bones on the ground. You're nothing. You're just matter. It's only electricity that gives you life.
I was going to say, well, I become a piece of wood. Not even so, because if you take the electricity from, atoms,
Mm-hmm.
if you remove whatever, what does wood becomes, like you're saying?
Yeah.
Piece
So
of ash.
electricity is life. There's
life.
no life. A lot of people say water is life. It's essential for most life, I guess.
Life. Mm-hmm.
And carbon and all that other stuff, but none of it can work without electricity. Mm-hmm. None of it can create life as we know it without electricity. And people, I don't label electricity God. Obviously, I see it as electricity, but I think that's what brought us to.
It's a godly concept, anyway.
Right?
That it's a godly force, electricity.
Look at the Norse, the Vikings, and their mythology is full of electricity and lightning bolts and all this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe they were onto something. I don't know. It's always been, because I know, I believe there is something out there.
Okay.
I believe there is
A
some
being,
No, I don't know about being
a force.
a force of some sort. Yeah, that I don't know what it is. I can't, and I'm not going to pretend to know, or I'm not going to put faith into somebody else's interpretation of what it might potentially be because they read it in a book. So for me,
But it's an opinion based on others' opinions.
right. Well, here's the thing too. Like,
That's
this is an argument I have with people.
Yeah.
I don't know if even if it's an argument. It's just a kind of point that I point out. It's like, all right, so you're telling me it's essential, religion, Bible, church, priest, blah 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 blah, all that stuff. It's critical, right? So you're telling me that if I was in the middle of the desert, extreme nothingness around me, you're saying that if God wanted to speak to me or give me a message, that he wouldn't be able to, or it wouldn't be able to? Sorry, a church, a priest, a Bible. You're trying to tell me that that stuff's required?
They're the only antenna, the only connection to what. I like this question. So you ask a typical Christian, a believer, let's say, you believe in God, yes. What is your God? It's the God that, that I've known as a kid, omnipotent and all of that. Okay. Say you're born in Iran. Who would be your God? And if you'd be born in Haiti, who would be your God? And who would you worship? What would you worship? With the same sincerity, the same depth of beliefs that good Christian, good Muslims, good Jewish people have. They're sure of their faith to the same degree. Who's right? I don't know. But that's what they have in common. And sometimes those that are intolerant will condemn harshly others that don't have their, faith system, their faith. So the tribalism thing, again, it comes, you don't speak the same language, you don't look like me, you don't behave like me, whatever. It's an excuse to feel that we of this color and this language, whatever, we're together.
Mm-hmm.
They're against us. But if they would come with us, we'd find something else wrong with our group.
Well, here's a question.
Yeah, a group.
Why would a God require anybody to worship them?
Because he's so damn insecure and narcissistic.
And egotistical?
And narcissistic, I'm, Neil.
As if, right? Like, people, I just, how can, like, if okay, let's say there is a God, as they say there is a God. Even if there was a God, as they say there is a God, like the Christians and all them other folks. Why, first of all, why would he care about what we do?
Why would he go?
And why would he make mistakes?
Why would he give us free will?
Yeah.
And then punish us
Yeah.
when we make mistakes? Yeah. And punish us with eternity of hell and fire because we exerted poor judgment, because he gave us free will. So he gave us free will and we're supposed to be perfect 100%. Screw you.
It doesn't make any sense.
No.
It's so counterintuitive.
Here's the question also I like to ask. No, the point I like, about the whole thing. I say it's a faith issue. I had marvelous evening with a cousin of mine and a 97 and a half, like she says, and a half. None.
97.5-year-old?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. And at some point I said, I've got to tell you, I'm really atheist to the bone, and I loved her. I mean, I respected her, and I really think, maybe she's right, maybe I'm wrong, and that's wonderful. But to be honest, that's how I felt. So I told her, that, you know. And I told her my story and all of that. And then at some point I said, I think it's a matter of fate because, you know, you choose to believe that God was never born, will never die. He's everywhere. He's everything.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. It's great. I choose to believe that the universe was created by itself in a moment. And somebody there, my cousin, said, well, that doesn't make any sense. So it makes sense to have a God who will never be born, will never die, and all of that. But the universe created itself? That doesn't make sense.
Mm.
To me, that doesn't make sense. There's a cognitive dissonance there that is so obvious. I don't know how to reconcile that myself. And I'm surprised actually that somebody has this reasoning because it seems so obvious to me.
Here's a question for you.
Yeah.
I'm going to shift gears on this very topic, though.
Go. Yeah.
Let's say
Yeah.
you experience God speaking to you.
Yeah.
Do you believe at that point?
I've studied hypnosis a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And people do strange things when they're fixed on a belief. Think about cults. Think about sex. And by the way, what's the difference between sex, cults, and religion? Number. It's the same thing. It's a belief system with a god and whatever ritual. But a sect has, you know, a few thousand members. A church, millions.
Parish. Yeah.
To me, that's the only difference. But it's just
Popularity.
yeah. It's a belief system. That's what it is. Numbers is irrelevant. How you call it, it's irrelevant.
Mm.
All what they have in common, it's a belief system to help us. And if you think of us as monkeys, smart monkeys, I know some people don't believe in that. Whatever, I believe in that. We're smart monkeys, and then at some point, well, imagine chimps. What makes the difference between them and us is that we're organized. We were smart enough, at some point we were smart enough to develop conceptual thinking, abstract thinking, and we were able to create complex tools, and we had this ability that makes us crazy to project ourselves in the future
Mm-hmm.
and invent, imagine, and create more for some reason than monkeys
And everything else.
and everything else.
But we share a lot of DNA with pigs, too.
No, I agree. You know, I
So
agree.
I don't think we came from monkeys. I think we're our own unique species.
Well, yeah, but it's a matter of language, maybe, or evolution. But we don't come from pigs. We come from primates.
I struggle
and
with...
and yes, we're very different. I don't know why. I don't know when.
Mm.
But we came from some sort of primate.
Maybe we are a type of
Lucy
primate.
is considered to be Eve.
Wow. According to who, right?
Yeah, exactly. Sure. That's another theory, my friend.
Yeah.
It's another set of belief. That's all a conspiracy is.
Yeah, so worship...
And it's called a conspiracy because there's an emotional thing attached to it. I don't like your set of beliefs. I call it a conspiracy because you connect all kind of things that to me don't make sense. So it's a conspiracy. But me thinking that Donald Trump is actually now the president and all of that, you know, I'm okay with that. This is not a conspiracy because I know that's what's happening. That's the problem. Knowing and believing.
Or
People are confused about that.
believing that you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. Yeah. I think it's a
That's been one of my big
it's a
pride.
difference without a distinction.
That's been one of my pride points throughout my entire life was, if I don't know, I'm not going to pretend that I know.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to try to answer the impossible. I don't know. And nobody else does either.
That's right. If I'm supposed to know
Right?
And if I'm supposed to know, if you ask me something I'm supposed to know, I don't know, I'll look it up.
But like bringing things back down here,
Go for it.
why try to fill in the blanks of things you don't know or don't need to know? And I think the reason why all comes down to one thing.
Okay.
Fear of the unknown. I think everything we just talked about is all a product of the fear of the unknown.
I tend to agree with you. Fear, for sure, of the unknown. I tend to agree because of this, because I think we're always, like I said earlier, the brain is always trying to predict what will happen.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're unable to predict, it creates angst,
Yep.
anxiety, fear, and we need to calm it in some way. Drugs, sex, rock and roll, religion,
Yeah.
other form of beliefs is to help us to cope. Who am I to put a judgment on this? I don't know what's best. If it works for you, great. But if you can't function because of your belief system, maybe you should honestly look at that. If you think the FBI is following you all the time and you have an elaborate security system and you invest 60% of your salary, maybe you have a problem. Maybe your belief system need to be examined because it has such an impact. You need to test it in some way.
Yeah.
Don't believe anything. That's one of my thing I say all the time. Don't believe everything you think. This is critical because it means you're open-minded, and then you start to look at other things.
Because you can deceive yourself very easily.
You can absolutely. I do it all the time.
Probably the person who's best at deceiving you is yourself.
What did I just say?
Yeah.
I know. We do it all. Mm-hmm.
Fear of the unknown, man.
Well, here's a connection. It's an important shift to have a belief system because it orients, it structures you, it allows you to predict. And it takes you in a certain direction. And what we don't do enough, here's 3 legs I was thinking,
the milking stool?
The psychological flexibility. The other one is gratitude. And it seems woohoo, to be grateful for what you have, be grateful for that you breathe and whatever for what you're on. However, when you do that, it brings you in a different thinking direction. The emotions are going to follow. If you're thinking about, I've got, you're not going to feel crappy about, I've got a pretty good bed, and I like my house, and my wheels are pretty good. If you're thinking this, are you going to be feeling crappy? No. So there's a usefulness in this, at least as a practice. So that's the gratitude thing, the psychological flexibility thing. The last one, or maybe it's the first one, is agency. And people that are happy are functioning well. And I get this from Paul Conti, Dr. Paul Conti, I believe, I think. They have this. They have agency and they have gratitude. People that are high level, they're not bitter. They're not whining little bitches. Oh, does that go on YouTube?
Yeah, it does.
They're not complaining. They don't have a victim complex. When they have obstacles, they find a way to see it. They have the attitude that there are no problems, only solution, which is bullshit. There's things that you can't, but it's a good attitude to have. It's an attitude that brings agency, so you don't feel powerless, you don't feel helpless, you don't feel that things are happening to you all the time, that you have no control. When you do agency, you're able to move things. And if you have gratitude, you'll be grateful that you move things 2% instead of going, I could. That's what I mean.
So how does one acquire more self-agency in their life?
That's a good question. Mm-hmm.
That's the journey I'm on here with the
Mm-hmm.
ATOMECY is how do I
Okay.
help people
Mm-hmm.
become more autonomous,
Mm-hmm.
and how do I help people exercise autonomy through self-agency?
Mm-hmm.
So how to be more free and how to actually act upon it. Now I've
Mm-hmm.
got this theory of micro actions, but go ahead.
Well, I think it's acceptance. And acceptance is not acceptance of a situation, first of all, but acceptance of what you're going through in terms of feeling, in terms of thinking, and not fighting it. You know, you might be a good Christian and having a bad thought, what you consider a bad thought, and it's not to turn around and accept this, but to see I'm having this. Then you can have agency and do something, fight it in some way, or give into it. But if you have agency, you don't give into it, and that's really bad metaphor talking about Christian and that. But um, you know, how do you get agency? It's acceptance that there are risks that you may fail, that it's part of the journey, that you're gonna make mistakes, and um, it won't stop you.
Hmm.
And maybe it has to do with expectations too. Not to have expectation,
Hmm.
because when you have expectation that you have goal, though, I can't see that you succeed at anything if you don't have a goal. Uh, but if your focus is on expectation, you're guaranteed to get hurt because you focus on the result instead of the process and the moment and learning what you need for a goal that you must keep in mind, right?
Right.
But if you're focused on that all the time, I don't know, is it the right place? I'm thinking what I was studying I was just thinking about doing good grades in that course, and getting along with people and living my life. I wasn't thinking about all the time, you know. I think if
So
well,
maybe not getting caught up in the moment.
living in the moment.
Yeah.
I think that's
Living
the
in the
whole
moment, but not
theme.
getting caught in the moment.
No, not getting. What do you mean by not getting caught in the moment?
Spinning your wheels, being indecisive, not 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 having the confidence to accept.
Exactly. The acceptancing that there's risk that you're going to muff up, but it's a cliche to say with if you want to have big results, sometimes you have to take big risks.
Yeah. I see Mocha is having a bit of a hard time. Awesome. Well, on that note, thank you